Shalom Aleichem, everybody. Welcome back. It is Erev Shabbos, Parshas Truma, and I am sure that we are all very much looking forward to a warm and restful upcoming Shabbos. It's been a challenging week here in Houston with the loss of power, loss of water, loss of both. And I think I think that you might agree that if we look at what occurred this week, that there's a silver lining that we can all point to. And the silver lining that we can point to is the fact that we were there for one another. That when push came to shove, I might not have water, but I have a warm fireplace. Why don't you come on over and warm yourself by the fireplace? I might not have um, water, but I have a place for you to plug in your phone. How can I help you? Calls coming in from outside of the state, outside of the country. People concerned, people checking in, saying, "How can we help? What can we do?" And I think that touches on a beautiful trait, a beautiful midah that really comes out of this week's parsha. At the beginning of this week's parsha, the Torah says that Hashem makes the call to the Jewish people, and He says, "Okay, you're going to build for me this Mishkan. You're going to build for me this tabernacle, which is really going to take up the subject matter of the next five parshios." And it starts with this call for donations. Dabru al bnei Israel, speak to the children of Israel. V'yichlu li truma, they should take from me an offering. Meyes kol ish, from every man asher yidvenu libo, whose heart motivates him, whose heart stirs him to give. Tikchu es trumasi, you should take my truma. On a deeper level, the commentators explain that what's really being given is not the materials, but it's the stirring of the heart. How do we see this? So if you look at the list of donations, it starts with gold and then silver and then copper, and it goes through materials. And at the very end of that list, it goes ahead and lists Avnei Shoham ve'Avnei Meluim, these very precious stones, stones that were worth arguably millions and millions of dollars, as we see from the famous story of Dama ben Sina. And yet, and yet, they are listed at the very end of the list of materials. Why is that? Says Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, the reason it's listed at the very end is because the Medrash says something very interesting about these stones. You know where these stones came from? They came from the clouds of glory. The clouds of glory dropped them off at the front door of the tribal leaders of the Nisim. They went outside, they looked down at the floor, and there was a precious stone. And they gave it back to the temple. Hashem gave it to them, and they gave it right back. There was very little heart that was put into that donation. The copper, the simple copper that the Jew had to hustle for, had to work for, and he gives that to the temple. He goes ahead and he gives that to the Mishkan. Asher yidvenu libo. He's giving his very heart, and that was precious. There's a story in Ksubis of a great sage, Rabbi Chia, and Rabbi Chia's time had come. Its time had come to pass away, and the Gemara says, it's Mo and Katan, I'm sorry. The Gemara says that when Reb Chia was visited by the Malach HaMavis, the Malach HaMavis could not take his life. There was an impediment for the Malach HaMavis, the angel of death, to be able to take his life. So what does the angel of death do? What does the Malach HaMavis do? The Malach HaMavis dresses up like a pauper, and he knocks on the door and he asks Reb Chia for a loaf of bread. So Reb Chia goes ahead and he offers him the loaf of bread. And then the Malach HaMavis shows him that he's the Malach HaMavis, that he's really the angel of death. And he says to Reb Chia, he says, look, you have mercy on a pauper and you're willing to give him the loaf of bread. Why can't you have mercy on me and give me your life? So Reb Chaim Shmulevitz says, what kind of crazy question is that? You're willing to give a loaf of bread, so you should be able to give your life? Says Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, when Reb Chia gave a loaf of bread, he gave his very soul. The Malach HaMavis knew that. And the Malach HaMavis says, just like you're willing to give your soul to a pauper, please, I also have a mission. I'm here to take your soul as well. Please give it to me. When people here were willing to open up their homes and open up their pocketbooks and open up whatever they had, whether it was just a little bit of firewood or a little bit of power or a little bit of water, and they're willing to give it to one another, they weren't just giving a little bit of water. They weren't just giving a little bit of firewood. They were giving their souls. There's a beauty in that. There's a beauty in that, and we have to appreciate the giving nature of those around us, the giving nature within ourselves, and to recognize that that's what Hashem is looking for in the building of the Beis Hamikdash. May we merit to see the building of the ultimate Beis Hamikdash, with the building of the third Beis Hamikdash, b'mehera b'yameinu. Amen. Have a wonderful Shabbos.